The New York Times writes at Camp David summit, Japan, South Korea and U.S. present a united front. President Biden plans to cement a newly fortified three-way alliance with Japan and South Korea during a landmark summit at Camp David on Friday, bridging generations of friction between the two Asian powers to forge mutual security arrangements in the face of an increasingly assertive China. Mr. Biden will host Prime Minister Fumio Kishida of Japan and President Yoon Suk-yeol of South Korea at the presidential retreat in Maryland, the first time he has invited foreign leaders there and the first time the leaders of the three countries will have met in a stand-alone session rather than on the sidelines of larger international gatherings. The Washington Post writes Russia recruited operatives online to target weapons crossing Poland. Russian intelligence recruited Ukrainian refugees in Poland to sabotage weapons shipments to Kyiv, but the effort became another embarrassment for the Kremlin. USA Today writes, will Supreme Court enter Trump indictment fray? Here's how it could happen. If history is any guide, former President Donald Trump could be holding out for help from the Supreme Court even if history also suggests he won't get it. As Trump and his allies face a 41-count indictment in Georgia for their role in attempting to overturn the 2020 election, there is a chance the former president will call on the High Court to weigh in on a variety of issues in the sprawling case, experts said, as well as in the other criminal matters underway in New York, Florida and Washington, D.C. While the final outcome of those cases are unlikely to be appealed to the Supreme Court, the justices may be asked to decide whether two of the cases should be moved to federal court, whether Trump and other former federal officials are entitled to immunity, and even whether efforts to limit Trump's public remarks about his legal woes on the 2024 campaign trail are consistent with the First Amendment. Los Angeles Times writes Hurricane Hilary expected to bring downpours, flood danger to Southern California. Hurricane Hilary is headed toward L.A., San Diego. What to know and how to stay safe. Hurricane Hilary forecast recalls infamous 1939 storm that killed scores of Californians. Chicago Tribune writes Illinois Republicans try to sidestep Trump factor at state fair while acknowledging strategy shift needed on abortion. Republicans spent their day at the Illinois State Fair largely sidestepping the impact a Donald Trump presidential nomination might have on efforts to rejuvenate the moribund political organization in a state controlled by Democrats. New York Post writes, Blindside, author jokes about Michael Oher's college grades in resurfaced. As the drama has unfolded between Michael Oher and the Tuohy family, The Blindside author Michael Lewis said he feels sad for the former NFLer. But 16 years ago, the best-selling writer once joked about Oher's college grades during an interview with Google. In a recently resurfaced video, Lewis was interviewed at the company's headquarters in California on September 11, 2007, and was asked about how Oher was faring academically at Ole Miss. Google him now, he's on the Dean's List at Ole Miss, which says a lot about the Dean's List at Ole Miss, Lewis said, leading to laughs from the Mountain View audience. The Denver Post writes for most Colorado homeowners, protesting property values proved a losing battle. Homeowners in Metro Denver and Boulder contested a record number of residential property valuations this year, but county assessors have rejected about 7 in 10 of those appeals. Yet, for homeowners able to win an adjustment, the reductions were substantial, ranging from an average of $43,000 in home value in Adams County to $124,000 in Boulder County, according to a Denver Post analysis of information provided by county assessors. This is, by far, the highest appeal rate we've ever seen on residential property. The other property classes had average protest rates, said Douglas County Assessor Toby Damisch. And it is understandable, as Colorado experienced the largest increase in residential market values in any reappraisal period, which by law had to be reflected in our assessments. San Jose Mercury News writes Antioch, Pittsburgh cops charged in vast conspiracy to violate civil rights. Federal authorities Thursday charged 10 current and former Antioch and Pittsburgh police officers in a set of sweeping indictments alleging offenses ranging from cheating on training classes to savage violations of civil rights in one of California's biggest criminal cases of police corruption. The most serious and disturbing charges, civil rights violations to injure, oppress, threaten and intimidate citizens of Antioch, were filed against 2 current and 1 former officer from that city's police department, where residents have long complained of excessive force and where dozens of officers have been placed on leave amid a scandal over their racist text messages. Any breach of the public's trust is absolutely unacceptable, said FBI Special Agent in Charge Robert Tripp. The actions today make clear that nobody's above the law. San Francisco Chronicle writes SFUSD faces tough decisions on staffing, school closures as district nears fiscal cliff. In an exclusive interview with the Chronicle, SFUSD superintendent described the process, the timeline and the topics at the heart of difficult conversations ahead. BBC News post-race to evacuate Northern City as fires rage across Canada. As dawn approaches in Canada's Northwest Territories, firefighters will continue working to stop wildfires from reaching the city of Yellowknife in the north of the country. The Northwest Territories Fire Information Officer, Mike Westwick, said the coming days will bring winds pushing the fires in directions we don't want. We're heading into a critical couple of days during the management of this wildfire, Westwick said yesterday. We expect to see northwest winds to west-northwest winds over the next 2 days, and those are winds that will trend both of those fires in directions that we don't want.